I'm ready. Are we waiting for Holly?
Yeah, I mean, if everyone's got the agenda, I think we can start. All right, it is 7:02 p.m., so I call the meeting of the special meeting of the Warren County Council for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025 at 7:02 p.m. We will begin with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next one, the roll.
Present. Alderperson Lidle.
Here.
Alderperson Catalan. Here. Alderperson Swanson.
Here.
Alderperson Harris. Here. And Alderperson Hooks is absent.
All right, and we're going to keep it for fun. So we will move on to item 4, public comment. If anybody in the public wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. I guess I need to come up. Seeing no people approaching for public comment, I will move on to the approval minutes on May 27th, 2025. Corrections or motions to approve? Alderman.
Move for president.
Motion by Alderman Swanson, seconded by Alderman Hope. Last chance for discussion. Seeing no hands, all those in favor of approving minutes from the May 27th, 2025 common council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. Two things. One, thank everyone for being flexible and being here. I know this is an open spot. I appreciate it, and I will try my best to talk loud. If you can't hear me, I guess let me know. And then 6A, we have a discussion of possible action on the attendance process for the filling the vacant district one auditor. Typically, the way we've done this is kind of just open it up, maybe by Friday or whatever, and just say, all right, 1-to-1. So it's like first meeting in June, which is this one, and then we just basically make it what we're doing. Have people fill out a questionnaire, and then maybe at the meeting give a couple-minute presentation, and go from there. Something like that. Anything to add, Barbara?
I don't think so. I think in the packet, it said July 14th, 15th, meeting, but it's like somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, not 14th. Whatever the second one.
That's the first, that's the second. So it would be, that's like technically the first meeting.
We'll change it. First meeting in July.
Motion by Alderman, second by Alderman Harris. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the pending process for filling the vacant Alderperson seat, follow Alderman Hope.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. That will be the motion. Item 7, any else? Item 1.
I have anniversary cards that we need to sign, so I'll be passing those along, but make sure you sign them before we stay.
Any other announcements?
If everybody could stick around for a little bit after the meeting to help Mark figure that out.
I am confirming that I will be out of town for much of the next training, but I will be should be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one tonight, and that is that
Lieutenant Fairman, one of our police lieutenants, graduated from Command College this last weekend. That's a really good program. It's a joint venture between UW-Madison and the Wisconsin DOJ Training and Standards Bureau. And out of that program, I think it's like 6 weeks of in-person training, not all at once. But anyway, you end up with what's called a certified public manager certificate with that as well. So congratulations to him, and onward upward. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Any questions from the staff? Yeah.
Do we intend to send any other lieutenants to that training?
I'm unsure. What's the question? The question is, do we intend to send any other lieutenants through the Command College program?
Yes, in fact, Lieutenant Hatfield has already signed up for it.
Any other questions from the staff? We'll move on to item 9, which is the afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've got the updates in the engineer's report. Country View Road, there's some additional work on utilities. So there's trenching along Country View Road. Southbound lane, plan 1 should be done by now, and clay material being delivered to plan 2. Next updated item I'm seeing is the Edward Street plans were just reviewed at the preliminary plans were reviewed at the Public Works Committee earlier today. And well, 6, we'll update this in the report, but routing and casing primarily done, televising is underway, and then test pumping. So that project is getting in the final stages right now. Badger Mill Creek, there's an update on there. There's still some restoration work that's ongoing, and both folks anticipate to be done soon. Lower Badger Mill Creek Interceptor, the district and I found out just earlier this week that the work along Shago Lane may be delayed until after the Ironman triathlon because of concerns over trying to be able to get it finished beforehand. So we're currently working. The district is currently reviewing the contractor's request and the process. And so just wanted to give people an update that might be delayed to that time frame. And Glen is there's some storm sewer culvert work that's getting finished. And I think that's, well, I guess one thing that's kind of been, on the stormwater webpage updates, Mary actually contacted me earlier today. So we're working on making some refreshing content and making, just providing better public outreach going forward related to stormwater improvements. And Maura's been awesome at helping that. She was able to work with Glacier's Edge Elementary just before school ended to be able to have them help the kids help with the storm drain mural project. And so there's some video. We're looking at making that available on the Ripple Effects page as well as the City of Verona webpage. That's all I've got for updates. I'm happy to answer any questions if I'm able, and if I'm not, I'll bring that back to Carla and be able to report back later.
Any questions on that? All right. We'll move on to item 10, which is community. First up, we have 10-day plan.
I'd like to make a motion for payment of bills in the amount of $929,777.18.
Motion by Alderman Hopkins, second. Second by Alderman Gleason.
Yeah, we have 3 major bill payments. The first one is for $300,774 to AECom for miscellaneous engineering services. The second one is to Madison Metro Sewage District in the amount of $97,142 for Arden Land connection fees. And the third is to water well solutions in the amount of $147,021 for well fixed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Questions or comments on the motion to vote? All of them? On the vote,
Aye.
Yes, and make a motion for the acceptance of the 2024
If you want.
I think she was, not part, I'm sorry, and then friends.
Hello, everybody. How we doing? Good? Yeah. Nice to see all of you. I'm John Berger. And I got along with so it's a big part of the audit I've done for the last couple of years. I'm going to spend most of my time on some materials I think you all have as part of your packet, but it's financial highlights. 2 pages on the governmental funds and then 3 pages on the different utilities. Find out what as far as where the city landed at the end of the year. So go through this. If you have questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. Really kind of nice to be in this facility. I grew up in Verona. I think I've mentioned that to you in the past. I've never been to the senior center though, so it's pretty neat. My mom was volunteering here, so I was calling her. She hasn't been in Verona anymore. I don't know what year. So wonderful facility. So just a couple things before I hit on these highlights. I want to mention the audit did go really well this year. It always goes well. But I point that out this year because four main things. One, we issued a modified opinion. That's an opinion and financial statements. Kind of take that for granted, but there's now 101 accounting rules that have to be adhered to. They don't all apply to the city, but most of them do. It's a lot of work to make sure that your financials everything is down. We also did not have the material. I don't think we had any entries this year for the audit, either on the governmental side, like I'm very involved with, or the utility side here. And that's pretty notable. That's pretty unique. We do have some audits like that, but it just doesn't happen that often. And that's what the case going well for the last couple of years. So that's all to Brian and everybody that he works with. Not just to get ready for the audit, but also to keep the records throughout the years and budget times. It's also very well prepared. Your audit costs, you focus on the audit, and there's no delay. We ask for a lot of things, and we come in ready to go. So it's pretty much like a show. And that also gets us here to this meeting now versus July or August. With that said, I'm going to go through these highlights. So you all have it. You can see it. Okay, great. I can do that. Yep.
I think it was already under the like splash screen that was up there. If you just press the X on it.
I don't need it. I got it. Yeah.
I know, I don't know.
All right.
First
page. Thank you. So this first page is focusing on the fund balance of the general fund. As you know, the general fund is the primary operating fund of the city. And in fund balance accounting, you can have up to 5 different categories at the end of the year, kind of like buckets. And I'm going to start at the bottom here in this kind of simplified bar graph. And non-spendable, just a slice of the total amount of $242,000. That constitutes amounts just like it sounds. You can't spend it. So the prepaid amounts, long-term receivables that are in your equity, but they're just not available because you're not going to receive them probably for another year plus. Just up a little bit from last year. Nothing restricted, nothing committed. Assigned is the next category, and that went up considerably from $971,000 up to $2.7 million. And it's made up of 2 things. One is 2.2 that you've applied to the budget that you're operating right now, the balance your budget for 2025, and then $510,000 that you set aside for compensated absences or retirements, and that's a brand new category for you, and that's wisely done. Doesn't mean people do leave. There's the amounts, the best benefits that have to be paid out. Try to save for that. You're financially able to avoid fluctuations, large fluctuations in the general fund as people do retire. So that's why that amount increased quite a bit. Everything that's left goes into the unassigned, and that went from 6.1 up to 6.3, so it's $266,000. That's completely liquid. It allows you to apply it to next year's budget or unexpected expenses, whatever the needs of the general fund. So
overall, you can see that top bar, your fund balance went up in the general fund by about $2 million. And that's summarized here, partway down this kind of high level income statement. But the revenues came in at $1.8 billion above the budget, and that was driven primarily by permit revenue. About, you look at all the different various forms of permits, came in about $388,000 over budget, but it's really investment income that was driving that. The market's very strong. We saw this everywhere we went for the last year's audits, and so that was $1.3 million over. Wisely so, it's budgeted conservative for that. It came in very strong, so you have that favorable graph there. Expenditures on that side were under budget by $781,000. Two things stood out when I look in the back of the financials, and there's a lot more detail in the back of the financials. But police was under budget by $576,000. Planning was under $54,000. Health and welfare under budget. So again, the fund balance grew overall by that $2 million, just over $2 million. That plays out in your fund balance policy. So again, this is your general fund. How does your general fund compare to your budgeted expenditure? The policy says you're going to try to maintain at a minimum 25 to 35% of the subsequent years of 2025 budgeted expenditures in the general fund. So that's that. Those are the two lines, the light blue and the black. That's the range of your policy minimum maximum. The red line is where you've been for the last 5 years. So you've been above your policy for the last 5 years. Policy also clarifies that any excess goes towards capital items. You're at 46% at the end of 2024. It did go down this year. That's again because you moved amounts out of your unassigned into your assigned for the contracts and the balance sheet. If you're curious, those blue dots are other places that we audit in Wisconsin, similar size business. Pretty close to the city. All right, shifting gears a little bit here, taking a look at debt. Page 3 is focused on the debt in the statutory sense. So how much debt do you have outstanding based on the debt capacity, which is 5% of the equalized value. That's plotted out in that black line. And so your debt limit went up to $215 million, so it's up 6.8%. Pretty strong growth over the last 4 years. That red line is the GO debt that you have outstanding, and that's been inching downwards over the last 5 years. This year went down about $400,000. So you're using 17% of your debt. The city itself has a more restrictive debt policy. That's generally what we see because most places would not want to issue all the way up to the debt limit. Well, I have seen the upper 80% be a very young, very active test, but that's unusual. But your policy brings that down a little bit. Instead of 5%, it's 3 3/4 of GO debt that's backed on the levy. And so that would actually calculate it out to be, instead of that $213 million, your debt limit according to policy would be $156 million. And your GO debt outstanding that's supported by levy dollars is down the bottom table here. So it is $23 million. So again, well below where your policy stands. The other forms of debt you have down here, and the utility does have some GO debt. But it does not, there's no revenue debt. Years ago, the city did have revenue debt, which then ties up some cash and other things because of the covenants, but nothing outstanding there. You have comp-abs, compensated absence, that's what we've been talking about. That's at $1.7 million. There was a new accounting standard that had to be implemented this year, GAAP 101, that reevaluated that. Most places went up. I forget which way it trended here in the city, but I don't think. And again, taking a look at debt, how much does the city pay in debt service, principal and interest together, compared to your other non-capital governmental expenditures? So we're not talking utility funds. This is all governmental funds, TIPs, and capital. And so that's been inching edging downwards the last 5 years. We generally recommend around 20% or less. And you've been above that for the last 5 years, except for this year, you're right around that 20%. Other places we audit, a similar size again, are those black dots in there, 21 to 17%, somewhere in that range. It's hard to compare municipalities across, so I always put a word of caution there. It's more about debt management. You have to look at debt management. Of course you do. You look with your financial advisors to make sure that TIPS can have a big impact on this. And I know your TIP debt has gone down, but it's still pricing this as well. With active and successful TIPS too. So, but just out of curiosity, I think I'd focus more on where the red line is from. Any questions on those before I talk about the utility funds?
I think I heard you correctly on this, but the debt service and non-capital expenditure fee, historically been a product that's typically recommended. That's not something that you're particularly concerned with. I'm going to repeat this back in my own words to see if I exactly understand this. So that's something that you're not particularly concerned about, or you don't think we should be concerned about, based upon the type of debt that we have, and the fact that it's a significant chunk of the debt is from debts that are active and ongoing with an expiration date, and it's resulting in growth and increasing the tax base in the state.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, this is a community with a lot of growth. Outside, right? So you're going to see higher debt service in all this. And as you'll see, as I touch on the next two funds too, all the funds of the city are important funds. If they're stronger than some of the because there's too much expenditure going on the federal government. But point being that I don't know. And that 20% isn't anything that's really revenue, it's just general tax.
Yeah, I was just curious, the choice of this as kind of a metric, the debt service against kind of ongoing non-capital, that's chosen because that's looked at as more of a must pay every year as opposed to capital, which can fluctuate more.
Exactly. And that, debt service is from the debt is to finance that capital. So capital goes, and that's one of the importance of governmental funding is it flows through the issue debt. Your fund balance grows, and then it goes down. So that's why you pull it out of the, generally try to pull it out of the general fund, things like that, create a separate fund for that, so that you can get a lot more consistency in the primary operating fund. But yes, I mean, it does fluctuate a lot. And so that is why we pull out, try to get apples to apples.
Is that one of the items that every agency would look at? Would that be required?
No, about fund balance levels are definitely. But that's probably more of a question for Howard, maybe Brian would know, sitting in this call.
I mean, they did look at what debt we have.
Thank you. I've always been concerned after to bring that down.
So this is just kind of an approval that as the city grows,
And some of that debt, remember, is also in the utility. Years ago, there was CDA lease revenue bonds for some that all that's not all. I'm going to share a few things on the utility funds. We have a separate team that audits these, but they share their notes with me. And we'll start with the water fund, right there. So a few different metrics on each one of these pages. Water has one additional one because of the fact that it's regulated by the PSC. And so when you get a rate approval from the PSC, it's a very exhaustive process, and that was done several years ago. So the rate of return that's been authorized is sitting at 5.3%. And that's think of that as a target rate. Okay? It's okay to go go over. These will be under, but if it's continually under, and it has been under for the last couple of years, that might be an opportunity, or not an opportunity, but time to look at the rates to make sure that they're still sufficient, because you're not getting what the kids see expected all the time. And kind of see how that's going to play out for long. So that blue line represents the revenues, the black line is expenses. So the blue line is very flat, and that's pretty typical in a water utility that has not raised its rates, because the customer base may not be growing a whole lot. There's a lot of water conservation efforts going on by individuals and businesses, so it's been pretty flat. The revenues decreased actually a little bit from last year, very slightly, but expenses continue to go up. The costs and the service bills and things like that, those continue to go upwards. In some situations, somewhat out of your control. The operating expenses did increase again last year because of purchase power for well number 6, salary increases that ran through there, cost connection, inspection costs, and engineering services. So that's one thing. If the revenue stay flat, expenses continue to creep up, that margin gets pretty narrow. So I think the city's doing that this summer, maybe this fall. Another metric is further down this page, and that's the unrestricted reserves, and that's the focus there is on your cash. There is no restriction on your cash, again, because there's no revenue bonds outstanding. But the end year is 5.7. Compare that to the expenses. You have 24 months or 2 years worth of operations. We generally recommend 3 months for operations at a minimum, and then up to 12 months for unanticipated capital. So that's 12 to 15 months. You're at 24 again, so that fund is in very good shape. The bottom is taking a look at the plan. How much has been, these are all capital intensive funds, how much has been financed through earnings versus debt? And we always generally recommend for a growing community like this to try to be 50% or better on the earnings. And you are dropping down here again at 98%. There is not a lot of outstanding debt in this fund. No concerns there. Switching gears to the sewer fund. So, no regulatory requirements on this. You can see over the last 5 years, the black line being expenses, being the blue revenues, almost a mirror image of each other. Actually, the first couple of years, pretty much in sync, and then expenses began to exceed what now the revenues are a little bit above. So operating revenues did go up a little bit from last year, by 248,000 or 8.4%. Operating expenses also went up though by 213,000 or 7.6%, and that is driven by cost issues that pass through all the time. So there were some new, the revenues are up though because the rates were increasing for the 1 in 2024 in anticipation of those costs that are going to be passed through back. Unrestricted reserves are strong in this one, not quite to the level that you saw in the water fund, but we have 12.5 months, so no concerns there. And plant capital derived from 83%. Again, strong over that 3%. And lastly, the stormwater utility. A little bit more volatility in this fund, which is pretty common to see. And as you can see, the first 2 years, expenses actually exceeded the revenues for operations. And they've kind of come together over the last couple of years. So revenues were up 121,000 or 13%. That's consistent with the increase in storm rates of 10.4%. They kind of went up and sync together. But expenses went up as well, 89,000 or 9%. And that's again related to salary increases and the repair of a box cover and inlet gates. Unrestricted reserves here could have been picked up about 2.5 months or so, but due to new rates coming in effect, so you're 16 months, and the majority, almost 100% of the investment in capital is and all three utility funds are in good shape. Just keep an eye on those rates and the water fund.
Can I do that? Okay, so I make a motion to accept the site plan.
Motion by Alderman Hunt, is there a second? Motion to close. Motion to close for now. Any more further discussion? Alderman, accepting the 2024 financial statement.
Aye.
Opposed?
I make a motion to approve the contract on the services and utility LLC from 2025 to 2027, in the amount of $56,360 for 2025, $58,000 for 2026, and $2,750 for 2027.
Motion by Alderman Hunt. Second. Second by any other discussion?
I just saying, this is I don't track audit costs that closely, but I think this is a pretty reasonable cost for an audit. Doing in large part, as I mentioned, to the great work that Brian and the team do, on an ongoing basis. So I think, we're fortunate to only be spending that on the audit. Always be great if it was less. I think we're leveraging city staff time very effectively. And that's a great thing to say about our department.
I reiterated like all of the time. I actually come from familiar with audit costs, and I do feel like it's a good feel it. And reiterates what the auditors have said about Mr. Lammers and the work that he does like all year round. It is an effort, I know, to make that happen year round, but like the results are really on it. I'm really really good. Have a really like great and clean audit is wonderful. So, and I have been on, as long as I've been on council, we've had Baker Tilly, and they've done a fantastic job. So, really happy with that. So Baker Tilly LLP has proposed a 3-year renewal. Staff research on the main contracts from all area municipalities, and also the contract is in line with the other municipalities housing services. Staff.
Oh, thank you. I was on. Resolution number 25-2016, approving the survey map. Modify 2 existing lots located at 811 and 821 Mount Drive. We approved this in plan commission, so just separate the lot. Yeah, there were questions about, like, make sure the easements were aligned and stuff, but nothing came up with that. I didn't think we needed a motion. Move to approve the resolution. Number 25-116, as described.
Motion by Alderman Hunt. Second. Motion by Alderman Hunt. Motion to close the vote. Motion by Alderman Hunt. Any more further discussion? All those in favor of this motion,
Aye. None further, right?
First, we had a discussion and possible action regarding approval of alcohol license renewal applications for 2025 to 2026 license period. Yeah, should I start with a motion? Move to approve alcohol license renewal applications for for the 2025-2026 license period.
Motion by Alderman Hudson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Johnson.
31 applications for 2025 to 2026 retail alcohol license renewals were received by the city clerk. Premise inspections by the building inspector and fire department are complete. Staff recommend approval of liquor license renewal applications. Verona Wine Cellar and Schultz Vending are not related to licenses. There's one more thing to note here. We talked in public safety about an overdue bill that we have. So, what we call it retroactively amend my motion to approve that.
I could say some stuff. Everyone listen.
Yes, so we can still approve their license, but the statute's now bound to issue it, so they can look their invoices. So I guess just contingent upon, the issuance of the license will be contingent upon them pay for that.
No further discussion. All those in favor, the alcohol license renewal for 2025 to 2026 licenses, with the conditions of the
Next, we have a motion to approve cigarette, tobacco, and electronic vaping device renewal applications for the 2025 to 2026 license period.
motion on this.
Second. There were 9 applications for the 2025 to 2026 cigarette and tobacco products retail licenses. The list of applicants is included in the packet, and we've heard from police staff.
All those in favor, the cigarette, tobacco, and electronic device renewal.
Next, we move to approve a sidewalk cafe permit renewal for Two Kate's Wine Bar located at 109 South Main Street, Verona. This is the second year that Two Kate's is applying for a sidewalk cafe permit. There were no issues with the sidewalk cafe during 2024 and 2025, and staff recommend approval.
Yes, it's the second annual permit must be considered.
Yes, that was part of what we established in the
So the sidewalk permit itself is something new, so it's on the end of it.
created essentially almost at the request of Two Kate's, but we other businesses we could do that as well.
Okay. Right. Well, at least we hope on it.
Yeah.
I will say, if someone who's after this company other comments? No further discussion. All those in favor, approving the sidewalk application,
Next, we have a motion to approve ordinance number 25-1068, amending Title V. Oh, it did not come out of public safety. We passed on it for, we voted.
So no motion from the body, I guess it is on the agenda, so we have to talk about it, if I understand.
Yeah, most of you, I think, were in the room when we were talking about it, but there were some questions regarding the devices covered by the ordinance as written, and we want some more research done, courtesy of the editor and stuff.
Okay, so my, comment would be that I think there's been a lot of people, in violation, I'm not gonna name names. of this ordinance if it were to come in, just because of like, there's like this, I would encourage you to look at the distance requirements, because most people don't have their like stoves or whatever, like whatever this would be, fire, structures 15 feet from their house, if they have patios or porches that they have them on. Also, like solar stoves or something like it are very common, in our community and just in general, in the summertime, and I would really encourage, these currently don't fall under this regulation, like they would be not compliant with this regulation, so I would highly, highly encourage you to understand how that would work with this, and that you be really clear with the public that you're going to try to, that is going to be the case.
So we also specified that, a recreational fire pit needs to be certified by a national research agency. Or it says we include with training. Who approves the pits with training, and, what constitutes a national listed pit?
Well, I think that's just something that, like I said, I really just want to make it so that if you really want to use, you buy fire pit. Like, we're not going to buy something that's like,
I also, would just like to piggyback off what, Alderman Fulton said, because, at least 15 feet from structures, a lot of newer lots are pretty small, and so I would encourage for safety when they review this to see if that's truly a necessary minimum, because I know that's going to be very difficult for people, and may actually require people to move their fire pits off of the storm patio, which seems like it would be a so, just something to think about is to really evaluate how far away from structures.
Yeah, that's one clarifying question. Do you think it would, I guess, like, would you feel comfortable with fire? Like 10 or 5 feet from, a building? I think that was one of the, like, things we're addressing with this, is that there were fires that were closer to buildings than that. And so we're like, specifically addressing that one. But I'm not trying to just argue your point. I wanted to, see exactly the like, nature of your request here. For sure, that's
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. What I'm thinking of is am going to the neighborhoods, I see lots of people that have like driveway fires, and then all the neighbors stop by, they walk around, and it's a really neat building kind of thing. But 15 feet away, for people who have shorter driveways, is going to put them like right at the street, or potentially at the angled slope part of their driveway. Or if they're in the backyard and they have a shed, that can really limit where things go. So I guess when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about people with an enclosed fire pit that they purchased, having to have it 15 feet away from their own house.
yeah, put it in possibly a less than situation and then closer.
Right. Right. Or if they have the kind of driveway where the house is like an L shape around the driveway, it potentially puts them at a weird end of the driveway by the grass instead of the center of the driveway. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I agree. I wouldn't want someone setting up a fire less than 15 feet away from someone else. But, that's more of a lot line thing rather than structure. I'm not sure.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, I think that's
what you mean.
perfect.
Okay,
Yeah, to answer your question. nothing further.
Next, then we move on to item 11, which is new business. First up, we have 11A, to discussion of class and the status of the potential purchase of the field of Venus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just an update on kind of what we've learned and done over the last month plus related to the city potentially purchasing the Field of Dreams from the Verona Area School District. Kind of as we've done our due diligence and really dug into the possibility of purchasing the property, a couple of things have cropped up and a couple of things have happened kind of in the intervening period since we started this. First, it's our understanding that the softball club would likely be using the field on a daily basis as it has. And so the recreational programming that we thought that we could get out of the fields has diminished significantly. So there's that. Also, a couple of weeks ago, we learned that the Miracle League is fundraising for a field in Sun Prairie. So the Sun Prairie School District has kind of an inclusive sports complex that they are going to build. And in doing so, kind of fragmented the Miracle League, the potential for fundraising for a field here in Verona, but also the user base too becomes more fragmented. Though again, with a field in Cottage Grove and a field in Sun Prairie, there still isn't a field on the side of Madison. So we'll just kind of set that aside for a moment. Another thing that we discovered is that when the person who was kind of in charge of scoping out and potentially going to build the Miracle League field, he did come when the softball games were going on at the fields, and it was absolutely his contention that the parking lot would have to be expanded in order to accommodate two events going on at the same time. So that was something that cropped up. The parking lot would have had to have been enlarged. Also, the Rotary Club was not keen on paying for a bathroom on the site, which would have been a requirement for us to do that. So that kind of dropped off the project list for what would have been fundraised for. So in sum, when between Casey, the recreation director, and I, when we kind of looked at in totality what the value of the city would get from purchasing the property versus what we would pay for it. In the end, I think given all the diligence that we did, we wouldn't recommend purchasing the property. Now, that said, the school district continues to be a very good partner with the city, and having gone kind of through this exercise, one of the things that I said to Deputy Superintendent Beasy, hey, would there be maybe a potential for a Miracle Field on school district property? And so they do have areas that are pretty easy to think about where they are, where they do have larger areas or larger fields, and they do have a lot of parking to accommodate events like this. So anyway, what I did is I told him that I would help in any way, foster any connections that you need, even if it were to come back and Country View Elementary in that area we need to have some rejiggering of parcels or whatever, let us know. But anyway, that's kind of where things have been left off.
I got one quick question. So if the Miracle League came back and said, you know what, this is the number of people, would we have a chance to come back? It sounds like they're still kind of not going to.
Oh, they're very interested in having a field here in Verona.
Right. So like if they let's say they exhausted all that.
There's exactly.
Okay, maybe I do have a question about like, was the document that they don't understand and they like backed off of it, or did we misunderstand that? I feel like that was a big like.
Our understanding was the building of the field, the bathroom, and an inclusive playground. And towards the end here was just what they were fundraising.
Really was completely right. There was some stuff I wasn't there. safety could happen.
I just was wondering too, okay, well, there's always like, stuff like that, and the public field. I was surprised to see, I saw it when it hit the news, but, yeah, I was surprised at the excitement when it came. So, it's a great idea. So, disappointing to hear that this is the case, but I think
We're still very interested in fundraising for field. It really depends on the bathroom and what you want to construct. I think Epic, at Epic Park, we had what, $500,000 that room over there, just the bathrooms and I think we have a shop around that too. So it's really dependent on what you'd like to build. It's really accessible in this particular case. So I guess we had in our, between Casey and I, in our minds, probably a structure like the one you see.
And is there a possibility of building the field and then fundraising for that and then at a later stage, and it has to be in place before the field could be moved? Are they asking us to pay for that right now?
Yep.
Or they just say they don't need it?
They are asking for us to pay for it. At that location, you might be aware of Country Row Elementary over there. There's no permanent bathroom, they use porta johns. So if the field were built, the school district says they'd be accommodating and they would, of course. But even the distance to go from the field to the school is a healthy amount. Yeah. So if you build the field, you need access to it. Softball club might be. Don't quote me on that one, but either the school district.
I guess I'm feeling disappointed that I'm doing this stuff this question. And I'm wondering if we could.
It's two things, right? It's the bathroom, but it's also we were going to buy the softball fields too, and now we don't really have really as much access to them as we thought we would, and the programming that would go along with that. So that's,
How long you look at this?
Can you start that with me that I really important to have as much access to them as we thought we would?
Yep. So in our discussions, we thought we would have nights available purely for like rec leagues and stuff like that for city rec, and the understanding was not that.
That's something. Would you think that? Okay. So that, did that change because the school district was not willing to let softball use any of their fields?
There's some usage I understand of their fields as well, but so I guess you have to ask Casey the details about that.
Okay.
But my understanding is we have to really program as we talk.
Can you give them any again? That would not sell the property, if you don't buy it right now, or, because you said we would get another tax credit, but, okay,
It's up to the school district what they would want to do with that property. However, if you look through the agreements on the property, it is Parkland owned. Unaware for that type of activity. I will say, Casey mentioned that the Little League did their, kind of built their complex with the fields over there. It was $1 million fundraised by Little League and $1 million contributed by the city.
and have we just been,
After my knowledge.
Everything in the physical is location. As everyone's kind of concluded that if the government helps to keep an open mind and if they can't get on the school district, how do I like it? Other questions?
So it's just discussion of possible action from the potential like what essentially could be the action we're looking for right now.
It was intended as a.
I will say though that I always prefer to action on these just because you get some life to do it. If there's only discussion only, just in case you Unless there's any surprising things, and we'll move on to review. Because the discussion of action on the removal and then solar development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fiduciary Real Estate Development, Inc. is contemplating development of property located in the town of Verona, but immediately adjacent to the city. As part of the development, Fiduciary Real Estate Development, Inc. anticipates submitting an annexation petition to the city. The process of reviewing the anticipated annexation petition and all plans and documents associated with the development will cause the city to incur significant direct and indirect expenses, including but not limited to staff time and fees and expenses incurred by the city for outside consultant services related to the review, e.g. engineers, attorneys, accountants, planners, and other professionals. The city recovers the fees at cost. City staff recommend approval on the agreement.
Questions, comments?
I'm like the, out of, this, not calling where there's, or is that to be shared at a later time?
That's the bad problem. Right? Yeah, so it's just north of, yeah, it's, on the west side.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I know that city staff recommends approval of the green. It's really to risk for the community that we do.
Mr. Harmon, I think. Well, as long as we're on camera, so.
Well,
I'll go here, I'll make it easier.
We started doing these agreements probably about, let's say, 6 to 8 years ago, just it's solely intended to make sure that, there's no risk to us to have covering costs in case the development starts or for whatever reason they have to back away, which happens sometimes, but we want to make sure that, the developer has to have costs enough.
So that we are a figure agreement that clarifies the right now, we can start a process. And we should make it to
Correct, and there's even language within the document that explicitly says simply by executing and without powerful to anything.
and that's the, I mean, it's the PS.
Where the development is located on the northeast corner of the intersection of County Highway M and Stony Ridge Circle, adjacent to the West Madison Bible Church. The annexation agreement with Cascade Development West Madison Bible Church, and Psalms Partners is for the development of land located along County Highway M and County Highway PD, which passed 7-0 by the Common Council on February 13, 2023. The developer is seeking to build 496 multifamily units and 99,267 square feet of commercial land. As part of the development agreement, the following provisions related to public improvements include: the developer is responsible for public improvements applicable to serve the subdivision, including installation of public sanitary sewer, public storm sewer, water, streets, sidewalks, stormwater management, gas, electric, cable, telephone, traffic signals, street lights, and street trees for dedication to the city. All improvements shall be completed within 18 months of the execution of the agreement. The developer shall construct and install a public path to be used by the public and emergency vehicles extending from the end of the Avalon Ridge cul-de-sac to County Highway PD in accordance with construction standards of the city. Traffic signals. The developer shall construct traffic signals and associated geometric improvements at the intersection of Morningside Boulevard and County Highway M pursuant to the plans prepared by the developer and approved by the city and Dane County Highway Department. The developer shall be responsible for paying 27.8% of the soft costs and construction costs, including but not limited to survey, design, traffic modeling, permits, construction document preparation, view costs, traffic signal equipment, material testing, construction engineering, and construction. The developer shall pay all project costs for the traffic signal improvements. The $575,548 identified in section 4F sub 2 of the annexation agreement that is to be paid by the developer to the city shall be reduced by the project cost for the traffic signal improvements paid by the developer less than 27.8% of the project cost. That is responsibility of the developer. The developer is also responsible for city costs and other fees to include MMSD fees, city water impact, and sanitary sewer connection fees, land dedication fees, and land reservation. Lastly, the developer is also required to provide an irrevocable letter of credit to secure performance under this agreement and pursuant to the subdivision ordinance.
Has anything been found? I didn't think, it looks the same as.
Yeah, I think they have some other projects going on.
Okay.
Move to approve the traffic development strategy. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item seeks residency requirement changes to section 2-4-12, residency required for service on boards, commissions, or committees. Section 2-4-3, library board, Verona Public Library, and section 2-4-10, the tourism commission. Mr. Mayor, I'll read that to you.
Thank you. And going through some ordinances and getting to them, there were a lot of inconsistencies in how we label things between these ordinances. Also some variations in residency requirements. One of the things that that I noted was that certain boards have residency requirements and certain ones didn't. It wasn't consistent between boards that service just the city versus a wider area. So for instance, like our tourism board, if someone has a business that lives just outside of Verona, they do still have a vested interest in the tourism here. In fact, potentially even more so than a resident in Verona who does not live in. And so just trying to get the makeup of the board a non-resident. That's appointed by Dane County, and it wasn't clear that whether or not that person was or was not restricted to residency. So it's just clearing that up so it's very clear, whether there's clarity when it's not, and then same thing with the resident. And then I also removed the public places where it said already. That's not it. So, and then make it a little bit.
Okay, so for the library board, this, this narrow kind of high, something with stone wall sitting like.
Yes, just switch, because I'm trying to make consistent wording, so we use the same wording, and everywhere else it says city of Rome residence, and here it says city. And so it's just making the wording more consistent with the.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, the library does provide services. However, library board should be biased for the city.
Regarding the language suggested for the tourism commission, specifically the city of Verona. Sorry. So regarding the tourism commission language, specifically the city of Verona business person, do we need to clarify more specifically what a business person is? Should we clarify that it's an owner or operator of a business with grounds within city Verona limits? Would that be helpful to clarify in terms of clarification?
I actually took that wording from the Verona Economic Development Commission, so it's another ordinance that had already been written, and so we're already using that as active in our other ordinances, so I was just again trying to have consistent wording used. But I am not at all opposed to defining it further. I think it needs to be very clear. I just wanted to start with getting the wording to be consistent.
All right, yeah, I'm happy to put a pin in that.
I guess, I don't know, so when you say like, city of business, how can you? Because if you say, like, for example, when I was in Chicago, with the grocery store, when I was talking to the,
I think that would be like a primary question on what that word actually means. But again, I don't fully understand the legalities of the definition of that word. It's just what we use to define the person who could be on an economic development commission in a different ordinance. Seems like consistency.
I guess I wouldn't be too hung up on it from the standpoint of it's still going to be your choice anyway. In other words, yeah, for example, if this language talks about tourism commission shall consist of 5 members who shall be a city of Verona resident or a city of Verona business person. It may be that somebody is, let's say, a general manager of a restaurant. So they're not an owner or an operator, but they're the person who's maybe most knowledgeable of what happens there. This is broad enough to include them, but it seems to me like the way that the discussion is going, you want broad because you have the ability to narrow the scope of that definition by yourself simply as part of the appointment process.
I moved to approve ordinance number 25, and then 107, and then over to chapter 4, ordinance commission. Ordinance section. I've been talking about keeping towards customs for the federal.
motion to approve, any comments on that? Discussion? All those in favor, approving, ordinance number 25, reverse, member Philip, Moving on, second, authorizing application to Main Street Capital.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Verona is seeking to provide bicycle and pedestrian connections that promote safety and quality of life. The city has identified a project known as the North Main Street Multi-Use Path that will provide a paved connection from Bering Drive to Cross Country Road. The North Main Street Multi-Use Path would improve safety by improving an off-road alternative to North Main Street and connect to an existing multi-use path south to Sugar Creek Elementary School and the Badger Ridge Middle School, would connect to an existing multi-use path north to County Highway PD, McKee Road, and connect to Raymond. The Wisconsin DOT is accepting applications for the allocation of federal funds under the 2026 to 2030 Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP, and the application process requires that a local resolution of support be executed by the governing body for the project. And just in sheer numbers, the DOT share would be $300,000, and the local share of this project would be $75,000 if we won it. So it's an 80-20 split.
Literally like the half block by like the Moffett. Is that what we're talking about? That's the whole stretch of the path that we're talking about here. From Bering, I'm looking at it.
Bering across Country Road.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Okay.
I think there's a retaining wall there too, which makes it more expensive.
Oh.
Questions, comments, always on.
Second.
Still think I don't have any understanding. I mean, I think like in concept reading it, I think I make sense, but I think that if there's, I don't, like, I mean, create a wider path, I think it says it already exists, like that there's.
I'm under the understanding that it's a narrow path and it needs to be wide for use.
Okay.
So
So it's still not good what the structure over 30 top it's just a wider path.
correct.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Access to the state and the feds, money back in the field, and always in favor of.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that my comment is that I thought it was. So yeah, clarifying that there is in fact a sidewalk. It just takes walking. That is, yeah.
If you're a hiker and you go,
Yeah. From the path that you take it.
Other questions? All those in favor, resolution number 5-017, authorizing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Verona is seeking to provide bicycle and pedestrian connections that provide connections within the city and promote safety and quality of life. And the city has identified a project known as the Military Ridge State Trail that would provide a paved connection from Old PD to 400 feet west of Wildcat Way. The Military Ridge State Trail Improvement Project would improve safety by improving an off-road alternative to Verona Avenue, would provide additional connections to the Ice Age National Scenic Trail and Badger Mill Creek Trail, and would include access to downtown Verona, the Senior Center, and Verona High School. The DOT, Wisconsin DOT, is accepting applications for allocation of federal funds under the TAP program for 2026 to 2030, and the application process requires that a local resolution be executed by the governing body for the project. And the 80-20 split, 80% DOT is $563,625, and the local match, the 20% would be $140,906.
So to clarify, this is a project that we're talking about a couple weeks back that DOT wasn't going to give us
we're applying for both, so we're waiting on a response back from DNR.
Got it.
Yep, and this is another grant opportunity to pay for trail. Assistant City Administrator Ann Frywald said she wants to grant fund you guys at least. We got June and July covered.
I think she'll be better.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually say that, like, I really feel like, you know, having, Mr. on staff is a huge difference, and like, these are the types of things that we should be able to do, and it's really exciting to have real money impacting our community, like the mayor said, the amount of money back that we have won, and I think is huge, and I'm really grateful for being such a.
Other questions, comments,
I'll move to approve resolution 2025-09, authorizing TAP grant application for state grant.
motion by council. Motion by council. All those in favor, resolution number 25-09, authorizing TAP.
Aye.
Moving on to item G, discussion of intergovernmental agreement and the town of Berlin for permanent emergency management. Before turning this out, I just want to agree, and this is not just potential session, but any kind of stuff last time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, the town chair of the town of Verona, mayors of the cities of Fitchburg and Verona, and administrators of all three municipalities have met to discuss potential amendments to the current agreement. Proposed amendments include changes to the membership of the EMS Commission to reflect the proportionate contribution of participating municipalities, a revised funding structure to account for the proportions of equalized call volume, population, creating a calculation to determine shares of equity to account for a proportion of the municipalities' prior contributions to the district, clarifying withdrawal and termination procedures, and clarifying and cleaning up various sections. Tonight, city staff would like to discuss the following changes and additions with the common council. The two changes made by the town, which are appended to the agreement in your packet. The concept that unassigned funds would be distributed upon withdrawal or termination, but that the assigned and restricted funds would not be, as they are already accounted for. Some additional changes to the termination section along these lines. The most recent audit, now to be conducted annually, shall be used for the purposes of determining value for an allocation or distribution upon withdrawal or termination. For equipment, ambulances, or other assets, book value will be used to determine the value. Only money will be distributed to the town for its request. The cities of Verona and Fitchburg will agree to split up the equipment and ambulances based on the allocation formula in the agreement, plus consideration of the book value of the equipment and ambulances. The council has mentioned the obviously going with those sections to discuss the terms and conditions of the agreement.
So the change for the town of Verona to receive cash rather than the allocation of benefits, is that, can you unpack that a little bit?
Right, okay. I mean, yeah, the thing is that town of always met on services, so if they buy an ambulance or some other, so, you know, state of money as opposed to the city of Pittsburgh, city of Verona. We almost need the ambulance if we have it. Because we really have time because like 4 years of an ambulance. What do we need about ambulance for 4 years? Or buy like something that's going like on the five sites. So it's kind of time to get that. So the cities will be able to ambulance and buy it.
That's my first thing. And my second question is, in terms of equipment is what like my main concern would always be in this type of situation is like, do we believe that we would have adequate equipment knowing that we can long. But if like this result, would we have either enough notice to put an order of an ambulance, or would there be enough?
I would just say, you know, what are we about? Kind of moving across the board. We don't necessarily know what we need to do. Being not an expert, I think we can do something about, especially in the time like we do. Not that anyone's coming to this, but I think it's really fun. That's really fun. You can do it. Maybe not. Whether it's withdrawing or whatever, we try to do it. Yeah, we can try to set up what we do.
I just want to make sure I was expecting, especially like, yeah, I just want to make sure that was expecting. And also like, the EMS staff, right, that they still have equipment to do those.
I guess I would add on to that and say that keeping the sign down with the on is now, it's going to run like a situation where we would probably just put the sign on the way. Now, I guess I saw an ask for time later. Can we even, since it wasn't, I was looking at the choice, but can we even vote on this if it was kind of capacity, but do we vote on it?
I guess just to let you know, Holly is emailing it to everyone. We couldn't put it up in front. Really, the last meeting is the only difference between what they saw at the last meeting and this meeting.
I mean, I would, like I said before, even if it's not the event, it's fine.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. It's, you know, we don't have an obligation to have it in the packet. Obviously, we try to have as many agreements as we can in the packet. It really comes down to comfort level of the alders as to whether or not you want to vote, or, you know, how much do you want to be able to look, actually be able to look at the agreements. If you have a comfort level with, you know, because there's a lot of information in the memo, about it. So yes, you can vote on it tonight if you want to. If you do, I know there's a recommended motion that Jimmy put in the memo that I would utilize. But if you're not comfortable because you don't have the agreement, and you don't feel like that is sufficient amount of time to do it, then you wait till the next meeting.
Okay, we're gonna recess for 15 minutes, until, 8 or, and come back and see us.
It's just an email.
No.
Yeah.
Did you type like a space in there and then delete it?
Yeah. No, it's a running thing. Where
I guess as soon as Mara gets back.
I'm ready.
So you two must be fine. All right, it is 8:40 and we're back in session. Intergovernmental agreement between the city of Pittsburgh, the city of Rome, and Springfield. I hope everyone's had a chance to read it. Questions, comments, again, if people don't feel comfortable, don't take it.
In the document that was sent, on page 9, there's proposed changes from the town of Rome legal council in this, 6.02 section. Does that include the red line changes that apply on to 6? The red line changes within the 6.02 paragraph.
My understanding is that these are basically we decide the town that section to revise, and that's the fully revised section. Yeah, that's my yeah.
So the one on page 9 includes any changes that I made on 6?
But I think the one on page 9 is essentially intended to replace whatever is on page 6. Okay.
Any questions, comments? Or people who are comfortable with that?
Also for the governmental agreement between the city of Pittsburgh and Canada, it's one of these. This one, I want to go about it.
Motion on the company.
Second.
Call the roll. Motion to appoint body, questions or comments on that? Seeing no further discussion. All those in favor of approving the governmental agreement between the city of Pittsburgh, the city of Rome, and Canada, emergency medical services district intergovernmental agreement, all those in favor specify. Motion passes, and of course, just to note, this of course, continuing on the city of Pittsburgh, Canada. With that, we move on to one, which is a discussion of possible action on the director of parks and human policy and
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Verona has conducted a background check and extended an offer to a candidate for the director of parks and Human Resources. And per Mitch, we couldn't make it tonight. If there is going to be any questions about the background check, we should.
My understanding of the background check, broad terms, is that it's done. No criminal record of serial arson. And as you know, they're extremely expensive. They're conducted by the police department, but they come to a great and difficult job. People want to do this. So I think for the comment.
I was going to say, that compared to the site, the total comment. We have seen people have the parks and that budget, it's like, it's not this, and I wasn't even here for it. That's how long. I think that's good. And then it's still like multiple, very, so, I'm really excited, but, you know, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it's all, yeah. Okay, so, I'm going to move to approve the director part. That's it, I'm in forestry.
Motion all in favor. Motion all in favor. All responsive. I thought you were doing.
No, I was, but I was going to go.
Oh, okay.
Hold on a minute.
For further information, is it individual? And they accept.
They decided.
We can, the name is Mark Wagner.
I just wanted to, this would have been very related, but as someone who sat in, the interviews, sort of played with was great. Honestly, it was a competitive field, we had a lot of applicants, which was really good. To see him, honestly, before his interview, I kind of thought he already had a candidate, and he was exactly that. So, you're right, so I think you'd like to do about it?
Actually, I just want to say a quick thank you to Casey and Mike for covering this position, and even Brian and his, stepped up as well. These two departments, Parks and Public Works, have had a rough go of it with, lacking the Public Works director for so long and Parks covering, and now Parks has missing her director and Public Works covering, and I just want to say a big thank you to all the staff for stepping up and keeping things going well.
No further, discussion? All those in favor, all three of that report, the personal family? Move on by any call, which is adjourned. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by, Alderman Harrison, I think. It was really. All those in favor, adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And we are adjourned at 8:46 p.m. Thank you.